We are in the middle of a mini-series explaining how to invest in property in the middle of a recession, because we're headed into a recession, in my opinion. So we've covered vendor finance, we've covered exchange with delay completions, and today I'm going to cover purchase lease options, as they're often known. Hi there, I'm Frank Flegg, founder of Ethical Property Partners. Now, the great thing about lease options is you aren't committed to buying the property in the future. So if it's an area that you're not quite sure on the capital growth prospects, or if the vendor wants a certain price for it that seems a little bit high, a lease option can be a great way of monetizing the property now, making money from it, without committing yourself to a purchase at the end of that. If you definitely want to purchase it, then you want to do an exchange or a delay completion. That was the previous video. That's a much more robust way of making sure you can buy it. And if you really want to make sure you can buy it, you want to buy it outright at the start using vendor finance or using conventional finance. So each of these purchasing strategies that I'm going through in this mini series have become weaker. So the opportunity to buy has become less and less certain between vendor finance when you are buying it, exchange with delay completion, which is a pretty rock solid contract, but you know, people have exchanged before now and then wriggled out of selling it. Never to me, but it's possible. And a lease option is a far weaker way of securing a property. Still legally binding, but I'm just making you aware it's less secure. I wouldn't want to do a property where there was going to be £1 million equity in it at a future point in time, where I've done that on a lease option, because I think that that vendor has a high likelihood of getting a bit greedy, perhaps going and trying to fight me in court to keep hold of that £1 million. And the problem is there are no win, no fee lawyers that will fight tooth and nail for that slice of £1 million. And always in this, the court's going to side with the perspective of a vendor, because they're only doing this once and we're doing this all the time. So you have to be sure of a few things, really. You have to be sure that this is the best strategy for you. And if you're not sure, feel free to contact us and I'll give you our opinion on which of these strategies you should use. And secondly, you have to be sure on whether you're going to take legal advice and whether the vendor's going to take legal advice. Because it's very easy to sit down with a vendor and sign a purchase lease option with them and never get any lawyers involved at all. And the great thing about that is it minimises your costs. There's no stamp duty to pay, depending on how you do the lease option actually, and the vendor's finance, the mortgage can stay in place, so you can just keep servicing their mortgage for them, so long as they notify their mortgage lender. So it can be done. You can meet the vendor today and be having the keys and monetising the property tomorrow. It really is that quick. If you want to make it more robust, then you can take legal advice and the vendor can take legal advice. And once they've had legal representation, now the lawyers doing their job will notify them of all the downsides. You know, what happens if you as the purchaser knock the property down? What happens if you do some works and they're not safe? What happens if you burn it down and you forgot to insure it? Now, all of these are a little unlikely, to say the least, but the solicitor has to notify the vendor that there's the potential to do that. And so by involving the solicitors, you make it more robust, the agreement, but also the chances of the deal falling over, of the vendor saying, actually, I'm not going to do this. I don't trust you enough. I'm a bit concerned about your ability to do what you say you're going to do. All those factors you need to weigh up to decide which of these strategies is the best one. But lease options can be fantastic for a high cash flowing property that you want to have the option to buy in the future, especially if you're going to add some value. So if you take a property that's on a single AST and you then turn it into a HMO, I would not want to be doing rent to rent on that where there's a 2-year break clause, because what's the landlord likely to do? The landlord is likely to say, oh, thank you for setting this up as a nice 6-bed HMO. Thank you for furnishing it and putting fire doors in and wired smoke alarms, but now I'm going to exercise my break clause. I know we said it was 5 years, but I'm going to take that off you after 24 months. I know you've broken even a few months ago and you've made a little bit of profit. I'm going to have it now. Would you like to take all the furniture out and put it in storage, or would you like me just to buy it off you? And would you like to take all the fire doors out and put all the old ones back? Or shall I just buy those off you? oh, thank you very much. Shall I keep the tenants? Or do you want to evict them all and have it empty for a few months, still paying me rent? And of course, the landlord then has got the asset and they're monetizing it at that high level. Whereas if you have a purchase lease option, you're making that money from the properties, just the same as if you were doing rent to rent, but you control the asset permanently. So you can then buy it at that point in the future. Or again, if you make it assignable, you can assign the purchase lease option to someone else who then can run it as an up and running HMO, blue collar HMO, LHA HMO, white collar HMO, and they can then buy it at a future point in time. So purchase lease options are a really effective tool in the right scenario. And it's for you to decide what the vendor's problem is, what their situation is, and how you can then match a solution to them. What's going to work best for them? Do they need a high price because they're in severe negative equity? As we go into a recession, more and more people are going to go into negative equity as house prices drop. Now, I'm not going to make a prediction. Some people are saying 5% house prices drop. Some people are saying 10%. Some are saying more. It doesn't really matter. If there is a house price drop, people are going to go into negative equity. Those people can't sell on the open market because unless they've got savings. If they've got savings that they're willing to put in, then they can. But if they don't have savings to make up the difference, they're stuck. But some people always need to sell. And the people that need to sell need people like us to help them. And so purchase lease options, exchange with delay completions are great ways of helping them to move on with their lives, to do whatever they were planning to do, and for us to monetize that solution by then renting the property out, making a profit each month, and buying at a future below market value price. Guys, if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments box below. If this is your first time watching, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and I will see you on our next episode when we are talking about how to double, treble, or even quadruple the income on your single AST properties. See you then.